Welcome to the NEC Visionary Week. We hope you will enjoy the insights of global leaders and great thinkers as to how technology can address global challenges to create a brighter future for all people and societies. The next session's title and speakers are as displayed on the screen. Please wait a while for the starting time. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dr. Michio Kaku, Professor of Theoretical Physics, and it's a great honor to be here speaking at the NEC conference. You see, even though I'm in New York City, I know that NEC has been at the forefront of innovation, progress, imagination. And because of the people at NEC, we live in a better world, a world where technology is in the service of humanity. So it's a great honor to be here speaking for NEC. And today, I'm going to talk about the future, specifically how artificial intelligence will conquer the coronavirus and also change society as we know it. My name is Dr. Michio Kaku. I'm a professor of theoretical physics here in New York City, and I've had the pleasure of interviewing over 300 of the world's top scientists in order to understand their vision of artificial intelligence, space travel, the physics of the impossible, the interface between the brain and the computer. These are topics that I talk about in my books. But today, I'm going to talk about how artificial intelligence will conquer the coronavirus. And not only that, but it will change our society, the economy, medicine, and our way of life. First of all, back in 1918, 100 years ago, the world was clueless when it was hit by the Spanish flu. The Spanish flu of 1918 killed more people than World War I. It was a tremendous devastation in a world where all we had was magic and hearsay, rumors. In other words, we were caught totally off guard by the virus of 1918. But the question is, can it happen again? And the answer is yes. You see, 60% of all diseases come from the animal kingdom. For example, the seasonal flu. Where does the flu come from? The flu comes from mainly birds and pigs. And what about the Black Plague, which killed about 50% of the European population? That was spread by fleas and by rats. And the coronavirus, we think, is being spread by bats, the horseshoe bat. So in other words, it's inevitable that we're going to be hit again with a new virus. And the question is, how will we conquer it? I say that artificial intelligence will be one of the main ways in which we conquer the next virus. Now, look at artificial intelligence today. Artificial intelligence allows us to analyze mountains of raw data, huge piles of data, and from that, extract out patterns, hidden patterns that humans cannot see. For example, already, by looking at the brain scans of people with early onset Alzheimer's, computers can predict better and diagnose better than any doctor. The same thing with cancer. So in other words, already, artificial intelligence has exceeded the ability of humans to recognize hidden patterns in the data. It's like finding a needle in the haystack. Artificial intelligence can do it much quicker, faster, and more accurately than any human. Now, how does that apply to the coronavirus? These are thermometers that are connected to the internet, tens of thousands of them sold, for example, in the United States. So immediately, if there's a hotspot, immediately if there's a rise in people's temperature, you know it by analyzing the data. You know this information instantly at the speed of light. You know there's a hotspot emerging in a certain city. And 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, the hospitals are flooded with dying patients, patients that cannot get medical services because there are so many concentrated in a hotspot. Let me give you an example of this. Back in February of this year, we had the Mardi Gras in New Orleans. The Mardi Gras is one of the biggest festivals on the planet Earth. Hundreds of thousands of people converged to celebrate Mardi Gras in Louisiana. And of course, that we now know was a super spreader event. By analyzing the temperatures of people from that area, immediately scientists knew something was very wrong. Here's a map of the United States showing where you have temperature hotspots, where thermometers are registering fevers across the country instantly, weeks, maybe a month before there's a surge in hospitalization rates. So with one glance, you can see where the coronavirus is spreading. And eventually, this will be done across the planet. Across the entire planet, we will have an instantaneous analysis of where the coronavirus is peaking. Now, of course, this is not foolproof. Perhaps 40%, 50% of people are asymptomatic. They don't have any fever at all. But this goes to show you the possibilities of combining artificial intelligence with detection of the coronavirus. Another way is Google and social media. You see, the internet is a reflection of human behavior. And when humans begin to act funny, they begin to say things in Google like, I can't breathe, or I have a fever, and it spikes in certain cities, then bingo, you know something bad is happening in that city. And of course, this is across national boundaries. Internationally, social media reflects human behavior. And if human behavior registers things like, I can't breathe, I have a fever, should I go to the hospital? Artificial intelligence can detect it. Artificial intelligence is very good at detecting anomalies, strange behaviors on the internet. And that's where artificial intelligence can once again alert us to the fact that there's danger emerging in a certain city. Now, today, once you know that there is a hotspot emerging, then you do what is called contact tracing. You interview people to find out who their friends are. This is a very tedious, inaccurate, and primitive method. There's no PhD in contact tracing. We are basically making it up as we go along. There's no handbook about how to do contact tracing. We need a new system that is instantaneous, reliable, and immediately gives you a picture of where the virus is spreading. And that's where artificial intelligence comes in. We now know that a good portion of the spread of the virus comes through super spreaders. Super spreaders are people that are asymptomatic. They could be normal. They're not sneezing, they're not coughing, they have no fever. But by moving, they can spread the virus to up to 200 people. In South Korea, they tracked one individual who, by walking through the streets, infected perhaps 200 other individuals. In the United States, there was a conference in Boston of scientists, one of whom had the coronavirus. That one scientist spread the virus to perhaps over 1,000 other individuals that we now can track using the Human Genome Project. And how do these super spreaders spread the virus? Well, look at this. Just by a simple sneeze, you can spread the virus up to 26 feet. So we're talking about a huge distance just by sneezing. Here's a test. Take perfume and spread it in a room and see how far that perfume spreads. Not just 6 feet. That perfume will fill up an entire room, an entire auditorium. And so you begin to realize that if we can track super spreaders using artificial intelligence, once again, we can help to stop that disease. And how do we do it? Using social media and cell phones. That's right, cell phones. You see, cell phones are like a diary. They tell us who you talk to, where you've been, and they give you your location and exactly all the data necessary to find out everything about where you're located. So, for example, when the virus hit New York City back in February and March, it was horrible. People panicked. But by looking at cell phone data, by looking at microwave towers, people could see that rich people from zip codes where people were wealthy, they were able to leave to go to Florida, California, Long Island. So you could see the motion of people during the virus. But people in poor areas, areas where poverty takes place, by looking at that zip code, tracing those cell phones, we found out that they didn't move at all. They had no money. They had no resources. They couldn't simply fly to California or Florida. So the point is, with cell phone data, you can track instantly the motion of thousands, millions of people. Let's say you have a lockdown. Are people obeying the lockdown? It's impossible to say until you look at their cell phone data. Cell phone data allows you to track the motion of populations. So you know exactly who's moving to what location. And so this form of contact tracing uses the power of the cell phone and the power of the internet. From that, we can make a map. Look at this map. This map shows you who you call on your cell phone. Like if you're a high school student, you call your friends from your high school. And so it allows you to show where you've been calling. It also shows long distance travel. So anywhere, the point is that this allows you to create a network of friends. And if you find out who the super spreader is, you can immediately alert all the people that are in contact with that one individual. And how do we do it? Through Facebook. Facebook is basically your network of friends. By looking at Facebook, it's possible to instantly create a chart in 3 dimensions that connect you with your network of friends. And so the point I'm raising is very simple. Social media today is used just to communicate, to have fun, to contact our loved ones and our friends. That's social media today. Social media tomorrow can be an early warning system. It can alert us to where the virus is just beginning to get off the ground. It can alert us that there could be a major catastrophe at a certain hospital when all the people who are sick converge on that one hospital. And every week counts. If you can identify the super spreaders 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks before, you can save the lives of tens of thousands of individuals that are affected by that super spreader. And drones can also be enlisted using artificial intelligence. Drones can go to football games, for example, and analyze temperature, fevers, find out who has the fever by scanning all of them. And again, this is not precise because people who are infected may not have a fever, but at least it's a start. The point is that in the future, sensors, invisible sensors, will be scattered everywhere in the environment, looking for people that have some kind of anomalous health condition. So in the future, sensors will be able to pick up the virus, perhaps in a matter of minutes. And believe it or not, already scientists are going to the sewage system, the water treatment plant outside cities, and sure enough, you can see where the coronavirus is spreading by looking at sewage. You see, when people get the coronavirus, not only do they cough, but they also have diarrhea in many situations. So by looking at human waste, you can track the motion. You can track where the virus is spreading. In the future, there'll be tiny invisible sensors sensing the coronavirus inside sewage. Another place where we can use the coronavirus is airports. Dogs today are being used in Finland to identify people with the coronavirus in 10 seconds. Think about that. I've been tested for the coronavirus. It took 1 or 2 days for my results to come in. In the future, we'll be able to duplicate what dogs can do and give a diagnosis in 10 seconds. This means at the airport, you'll be able to be scanned either by a dog or by an artificial intelligence system, perhaps within seconds before you get on the airplane. So when you're on the airplane, you have the confidence that with 96% accuracy, everybody on that plane is free of the virus. So in the future, when you check your luggage, it's an inconvenience, but you do it because what's the alternative? The alternative is to perhaps being blown up by a bomb on that airplane. Nobody wants that. So we tolerate the extra time we spend in line at the airport getting our luggage x-rayed. In the future, perhaps we'll spare a few seconds to have our breath analyzed for the virus, and in 10 minutes, we'll get a response. You see, dogs can smell molecules, individual molecules, which we cannot. A large portion of their brain, in fact, goes to analyzing smells. Dogs live in a world of smells that we cannot smell at all. But artificial intelligence systems can copy the behavior of dogs and perhaps diagnose whether or not you have the virus in 10 seconds. Now, contact tracing is good for one city, but how do you do contact tracing across continents? And once again, this is where artificial intelligence will give us the ability to do contact tracing in the sky. How do we do that? By monitoring airline schedules. Now, of course, no human can go through millions of airport landings and takeoffs to monitor what's happening with the virus. That's where artificial intelligence comes in. Artificial intelligence can monitor tremendous mountains of raw data to extract out usable information. And this is what we get. This is the actual chart that we get by analyzing airport activity during the virus. Look at the purple. The purple is centered on Wuhan, China. And you can see where the virus is spreading within a matter of hours to days. It spread from Wuhan, China to Europe, specifically Italy. And then from Italy, it spread to New York City, shown in red. So look at the purple, the green, and then the red. And you can see where the coronavirus was spreading using artificial intelligence. In fact, we now know that 60% of the infections in the New York area and the Northeast of America came through JFK Airport and Newark Airport. Imagine, we know exactly how the virus spread in the United States and Europe by using artificial intelligence to scan airport data. And then we can, of course, look at the future. By looking at these charts, we can see where the next place where the virus could also spread. And with biotechnology, we can scan for the mutations within the virus and create a family tree of the virus. Look at these vertical lines. These vertical lines in orange, yellow, and red. These vertical lines represent a mutation in the virus. And when you chart it on a diagram, you get the family tree of the coronavirus. Look at the lower left. On the lower left, we see Wuhan, December 3, 2019. On the lower left, you see the beginning of the greatest pandemic of modern times, looking at the DNA and RNA of life. So by tracing the RNA, you can see that it quickly spread to Europe, the United States, Latin America, and then it mutated. It mutated again and again and again. And on the right-hand side in red, you see where it's mutating today. And so you can create a family tree of the virus to know where it spreads. And we have new therapies because of biotechnology. These are called monoclonal antibodies. On the left, you see a triangle. That's the antibody. On the right is in yellow, and it attacks the coronavirus in blue. And so we can now create unlimited quantities of antibodies. So we now have a new way of attacking the virus, using dexamethasone to quell the overreaction of the human body using steroids, and remdesivir, which is used against other kinds of viruses, and also monoclonal antibodies. And now vaccines are being tested. 50 different varieties of vaccines are now being tested on 30,000 patients for each vaccine. 100,000 people are now being tested. Now, let's look at the post-coronavirus world. One day, the pandemic will be over. Now, the virus is mainly accelerating the existing trend toward a virtual world. I'm a professor. I teach physics. All my classes are online. In the future, virtual reality, which today is used for children, will be the way that we make contact with other professionals, conferences, tours, training, education. It'll be done in a combination of virtual reality, digital reality, and of course, one-to-one contact. So we will live in a combination of virtual reality and augmented reality in a post-coronavirus world. In fact, we can now connect the internet to the human brain and eventually, not today, but eventually extract images directly from the human brain. So artists of the future, they will put on a helmet, they will imagine works of art, and it will be created using three-dimensional printers. So the world of art is going to be totally changed, not just business, finance, science, and education, but even the world of art will be changed when the human mind is connected to the internet. So the human mind will visualize something and then print it out on a 3D printer. For example, on the lower right, you see metals. Metals can now be printed using a 3D printer. One day, perhaps, you may print out your wedding ring on a 3D printer. And shoes shown in the middle, orange shoes. These orange shoes were totally created using a 3D printer. You can now print your shoes at the shoe store as you wait. And eventually, the internet will be in your contact lens. You will blink and you will be online. And when you see people, you will see their image and their biography next to their name. And if they talk to you in German, Chinese, or Spanish, your contact lens will translate German, Chinese, or whatever into any language you want. In other words, you will always know who you are talking to, and you'll always know what they are saying, because the internet will be everywhere and nowhere, including your contact lens. So when you talk to somebody, you'll know who they are. So at a cocktail party, There are going to be, for example, many important people there, but you don't know who they are. In the future, you will know exactly who everyone is at a cocktail party. And of course, artificial intelligence will be put in our appliances, in our toys, and in our cars. The car of the future, you simply talk to it and you say, park yourself. The car scans the area looking for an empty parking space, parks itself. When you want the car, you talk to your wristwatch and call for your car again. So in other words, yes, cars will park themselves. And I think that the automobile industry will eventually be bigger. No, the robotics industry will be bigger than the automobile industry, because the automobile will become a robot. You'll talk to your car, argue with the car. Artificial intelligence will also make possible supersonic jets that travel much faster than the speed of sound. Artificial intelligence allows you to reduce the sonic boom created by breaking the sound barrier and, of course, shattering windows, which made the old version of the supersonic jet obsolete. The Concorde, unfortunately, was a failure. But artificial intelligence will make it possible to have supersonic jets. So let's sort of wrap up where we're going with this. First of all, as I said, another pandemic is inevitable. 60% of all diseases come from the animal kingdom. Sooner or later, another virus will jump out. But we will meet it with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence scans mountains of random information to extract out the signature of the coronavirus. So we'll have an early warning system. We'll be able to catch it before it becomes a pandemic. Artificial intelligence is also giving us new vaccines, new therapies. So the virus is basically accelerating the existing trend toward a digitized and virtual world. Instead of slowing it down, the virus is speeding it up. I'm a professor. I teach all my courses online now. In the future, with virtual reality, you'll be able to contact people, interchange ideas, and in the future, we will have BrainNet. BrainNet is when the human brain is connected to the internet. Think about this. You'll be able to send memories, emotions, feelings on the internet. Already 2 years ago, the first memories were sent on the internet. Think about that. In the future, this will be tested on animals and eventually on Alzheimer's patients, because Alzheimer's patients forget memories. We'll be able to reboot their memories directly into the human brain. And in the future, who knows, perhaps we'll be able to learn calculus just by thinking about it. So a digital world will give us a new economy. Economy where prices are reduced, efficiency is higher, and convenience is everywhere. The friction of capitalism, that is the middlemen, the choke points, the friction of capitalism will be removed by artificial intelligence, which will make life easier, more fulfilling, and better. And so in other words, artificial intelligence will open up a new chapter in medicine, a new chapter in the economics, a new chapter in how to stop coronaviruses, a new chapter in human history. So in conclusion, I'd like to say it's a great honor to speak on behalf of NEC. Over the years, NEC has proven itself to be a leader in technology, a leader with imagination that understands innovation and technology to create a better world. And so once again, it's been a rare privilege for me to speak at this conference for NEC.
Thank you for your participation. We hope you enjoyed it. Please take a moment to provide feedback by filling in the form in My Page. The next session details are as displayed on the screen. For viewing, please go to My Page and select the title. The NEC Visionary Week which will go on until December 4th, has a full lineup of famed speakers, digital content, and more. Please enjoy.